Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Schon Design Pocket 6 Faceted Pen. So, first off, though, in the name of full disclosure, I want to thank very much Schon Design for sending these guys along. I happened to see this guy launch on Instagram, and I made a comment just like, "Oh wow, that's pretty." And he said, "Hey Nick, you want to see one?" And I said, "Oh, yes, absolutely." I set up my full disclaimer on my website, of course, told him I was going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. It might be a gem, might be junk. He did still send it along, but nonetheless, we have to assume this is the very best quality controlled one of these guys ever, and I'm doing my best not to let that affect the nature and quality of my review. So there you go. Next thing, let's do some size comparison. Perhaps first, the most important size comparison is that of a standard ruler. And what we see here is that this is a relatively small pen here. We are coming in just over 5 inches, about 13 centimeters with the nib installed. And if I take the, if I put it back into pocket mode, so to speak, this is coming in right around 3.5 inches. So it is not a particularly large pen. If I compare it to a couple of other nice pocket pens here, we've got the Machine Era Classic right here. We have the pen that I stole from a Hampton Inn. Sorry about that, Hampton Inn. A Bic Click Stick pen. The Fisher Space Pen Bullet Pen. Just to give you a sense, this is a little bit thicker than the conventional bullet pen here. Your Parker Charter, your Pilot G2, and then finally actually a competing piece, which is the Machine Era Fountain Kit. A very interesting little fountain pen from Machine Era that's kind of based on the classic design, but is a little bit bigger and a little bit more fountainy. So anyways, there is your size comparison. So there you go. And then a couple of other things to note. Schon Design, who the heck is this guy? Well, he is a guy who's been in the pen world for a while, as well as in the watch world. He does pens and he does watches over there in Philly, actually now in Philly. And he is doing all of the work in shop, excepting the nibs, which he's getting elsewhere, which is pretty impressive. And yeah, then finally, one quick note. This is using the ridged ring add-on from the Schon guy. And there is also this version, which is actually a little bit smaller and it makes the nib a little bit smaller generally. But there is also this option as well, if that's something you prefer. And then finally, before we go any further, just so we don't get the, "Oh my God, you bourgeois bastard," this is a $262 pen. We'll talk about why that is a little bit later on, but let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting little pen right here. Start with, this is really pocketable. This is in that class of pens that you can very easily just toss in your pocket, and I did. As I was carrying this guy for review, this was just my pen. And it's perfect right now, given that in the Rona world, having a brass pen where there is a reduced surface life is definitely a beautiful thing. But just throwing this guy around in the pocket, it just sat there, and it fought with my keys and with all the other stuff, and it did fine. It's just, hey, it got another facet, right? But no, I joke. There is no appreciable damage there, and these kinds of pocketable pens can be great because it doesn't require you to have yet another pocket. It doesn't require you to have something in your, have a pack or a briefcase or something with you. It's just these can be a very nice form factor here. It's also a relatively lightweight pen. It's not the lightest thing ever, but at the same time, considering it appears to be a solid chunk of metal, in practice, we are coming in at 1.44 ounces for this guy, which is not all that heavy, right? And so that's a beautiful thing. Next thing, you get 2 options of metal at the moment. You have a brass version and a copper version. And like I said, both of those metals are a very good thing to be carrying right now because they have antimicrobial properties to them. It's not magic, of course. It just reduces the half-life. Do your research and whatnot. But nonetheless, that can be a very nice thing. And frankly, it just provides a very attractive look, which is great. Next thing, like I said, these are fully made in-house. This is something that, excepting the nib, is being made in the shop by Schon Design there. And that's a beautiful thing. I should take this off as well, just so you can see what that looks like. But we can see here, again, solid chunk of metal in there. And same thing on the cap here, except the O-ring there. I don't think he makes the O-rings either, but I don't think anyone's holding that against him. But I like very much the idea of supporting a craftsman working in a shop someplace here in the state. It's a beautiful thing, right? If we can support artists, that's a more important thing now than ever. So that's great. Next thing, you actually have a choice of nibs, and you have a very wide choice of nibs. Not only do you have the choice to buy a variety of nib types, across all of the nib types he carries, you've got extra fine, medium, bold, a 1. 1.1 stub and a 1.5, and these are in millimeters, of course. So I believe this is the 1.1, this is the 1.1 millimeter stub nib. But so you've got a variety of options, including stub nibs. And by the way, I love a stub nib because stub nibs give you a variety in size. If I write, hey, everybody, Nick here. Yes, my handwriting is amazing, just so you know. But a stub nib, that was me not holding the pen right, by the way, because I've got the thing taken off there. But a stub nib is actually a great thing. It makes your handwriting look fancier, even if your handwriting is complete and total trash. So you get that nice line size variation, depending on the directionality. That's something I like very much. But one of the things I like even more is the nib choice. So originally, part of the reason I wasn't that interested is I thought they were using Bock nibs. And Bock is a company that is, I don't know, their nibs tend to be unimpressive out of the box. But then I realized they're also now using Joe-O nibs. And of course, my immediate reaction was, Joe-O, what's this? That's amazing. I like seeing that very much. And so seeing a choice of nibs across Bock and Joe-O, as well as across all these sizes, is great. One other thing that's worth noting is that there is now the option for a rollerball style tip, which I can't obviously vouch that this is the same rollerball tip, but this looks to be very similar to it. This is in the Machine Era fountain kit. But it takes a fountain pen cartridge and everything like that. It just turns it into a rollerball. And so they're going to be, Schon, that is going to be offering those here soon as well. And so that's a beautiful thing. Next thing, this has some very nice details to it. Not only are all the parts very well machined with good, areas, good tolerances, etc., but you have things like, for instance, the threading on the top of this guy is quite nice. And it's done in such a way that you don't have super sharp threads that are biting at you here. You get very nice chamfers on all the various surfaces, meaning that this guy out of the box is quite nice. You get a very nice finish. And by the way, this is after... Here, I can polish it up a little bit more with a polishing cloth here. And what we see here is that this is a very, very nice machine finish. In fact, out of the box, this is... See, look at that. You can even see my I Am Nick Shabazz t-shirt available in the Shabazz. That's right, that was a plug. Anyways, you can see that there are very, very nice little details all over this thing. It is quite apparent to me that Schon has put in an amazing amount of work just in overthinking every element of this damn pen. And that's something I appreciate so very, very much. Speaking of nice details, there's a little O-ring in there. And that has two advantages to it. Not only does it make the pen a little bit quieter to put together, and it means that you're not hitting brass on brass as you're trying to get the cap seated initially, but it also seals it off nicely. It gives it a feeling that this isn't going to come unscrewed in my pocket. Unlike some other pens, which occasionally will, I never once had this guy unscrew because you need a little bit more force to disengage that O-ring, but it's also going to seal the pen closed, which means that if you are in a situation where you do get some leakage in there, and by the way, I never did have any leakage in carrying this guy, it's going to be trapped inside the nib of inside the barrel of the pen. So you're not going to get your pockets bleeding through because of your pen there. So that's a nice thing. And the threading on this guy is just great. Good threading is a joy. It's a weird joy, but it's a joy, and it's definitely there. And then finally, maybe most importantly, functionally speaking, this is a good writer. When you put the cap on properly and you actually sit down and write, I can say for you right now, this is a great, I'll even upgrade it, a great writer. It really is, because the nib is well adjusted, it's dialed in nicely, it runs a little bit wet on there, but it is really, really nice. The balance is great, it fits well in the hand, it has lots of texturing, but not too much texturing. I really, really like writing with this pen. This is a pen, just to give you a sense of it, I torture tested this recently when I did my charitable giveaway sort of thing. I hand addressed 52 boxes that day, writing with this fountain pen, and it was beautiful. So I like this so very, very much. The balance, the size, all of this is really great for actually writing. So to me, at least, that's what's good here. It is a joy to write with. It's excellently threaded with nice details, nice O-ring, a rollerball tip coming soon, a variety of nibs from both Joe-O and Bock, and even including stub nibs. Everything is made in-house except those nibs, brass and copper options, relative lightweight, and a good pocketable size and shape. On the great side, though, to me, is this faceted finish. This is gorgeous. And to be fair, brass tarnishes. I'm sorry, well, tarnishes, patinas, whatever, same damn thing. So this is not actually as impressive as it was looking day one out of the box, but oh my God, look at this. The important thing to remember, and I'm going to zoom you in a little bit further here, is that this is not hammered. This is not a finish that is like beaten into it. You can see it is perfectly consistent. You can see that there is a symmetry here. There is a symmetry of thin line, thick line, thin line, thick line, thin line, thick line. If you look at it from afar, it just looks like a hammered sort of pattern. But if you zoom in, you realize that this is beautifully machined, and very precisely so. And so as this patinas, you get high spots that are a little bit more reflective than the low spots. And the low spots, oh my God. And then coupled with that very nice set in the middle here, this is a really spectacular object. This just looks amazing. And everybody I've handed this to, and given that's very, very few in the world of Rona, right? But every time I've handed this to somebody, they've been like, whoa, this is something else. Like, yeah, it is. So this is among the prettier objects I own. And as far as pens go, and certainly, very often beautiful pens are in the kind of, they're in a briefcase diva format, right? Where you couldn't possibly every day carry it well. But this is not. I mean, there are exceptions, of course. You get like the tactile turn sort of objects that are also absolutely gorgeous, but this is a very, very attractive looking small pen that you can very easily throw in your pocket and have this piece of art with you at all times with you. And so to me, what's great here is this faceting really is next level and comes across as a beautiful, beautiful touch. On the bad side, to start with, like I mentioned, brass and copper will both patina. So if you're looking for something to be shiny till the end of your days, this isn't necessarily that. You can always get it cleaned up again with a bit of a polishing cloth. I'll polish here, and you'll see that this little area has just gotten a little bit shinier, but that's okay. That's kind of the nature of the beast, not the end of the world. Next thing, this is a little bit thicker than a lot of your pocket-style pens. If we compare this to the Machine Era Classic, we can see a little bit thicker, also a little bit shorter. So, it's not the end of the world, but it is definitely, it's a little bit of a bulkier object than some. So there's that. Next thing, this is a completely round pen. So as a result, if you set this down on a desk that is not perfectly flat, you will know that very, very quickly. This one happens to be, but nonetheless, yeah, this is definitely a roller. And as a result, you have to keep an eye on it, so to speak. There is no feature on this that stops this guy from rolling away on you. Next thing, it is a little bit easy to brush up against the O-ring and smear a little bit of ink onto the tip there. You can see it right here already there, and so as a result, the tip is unlikely to say pristine, and that's just because, as I said, as you're putting this in there, it's very easy to do that. Not the end of the world, it's just a little thing. Next thing, this is only accepting a short international cartridge. This is a very common cartridge format. In fact, it is the most common cartridge format, and you can find pretty much any ink you're after in this format, but nonetheless, it only accepts that particular kind of ink cartridge. If you are trying to do a cartridge converter sort of approach, you will have to refill a short cartridge and put it back in there. Not the end of the world, but it is definitely something to keep in mind. Then finally, on the bad side, this is expensive. $262 is a fair amount of cash. That said, it's made in the USA. The machining really is stellar. This is a luxury pen through and through. So you are absolutely paying for luxury here, but you are paying quite dearly. And, although I certainly don't think the price is completely crazy here, I do wish it were a little bit lower. That may just be a reality of the beast, so to speak. So, to me at least, that's what's bad here, is it is pricey, and that's going to take this thing off the table for a lot of folks. There are no no converters here. It is easy to brush against that O-ring, smear a little bit of ink. It is relatively thick for a pocket fountain pen. Brass and copper, both patina. On the ugly front, there's actually nothing ugly, so let's go into the final conclusion, which is that, honestly, this is a great thing. Like, I think day one, I got this out of the box. I started writing with it, and I think I sent the guy a message on Instagram like, oh my God. This is good, because it really, really is. Not only is it pocketable and light with a good choice of metals, choice of nibs and tips, has these great details. It writes beautifully as a fountain pen, and it has this faceted finish that makes it just absolutely gorgeous. He's got some very attractive other pens, but they all tend to be a very minimalist, simple aesthetic. Throw this faceting in there, and it's suddenly like, whoa. This is cool. This is art. It is going to patina. It will roll away a little bit. It is a little bit bigger in the pocket than some options here. There is no converter option, and most importantly, it is going to be pricey. But this is sitting at that intersection, at least for me, between everyday carry and art. This is absolutely not the most practical and inexpensive way to get a fountain pen in your pocket. I don't think I have to tell anybody that at this point. If you are just looking for a pocket carryable fountain pen, the Kaweco Lilliput is $80 and about equivalently excellent in terms of function. Although they've got the nib issues here. They're still using the Bach nibs. You've got this guy right here, the machine era fountain pen here. Very different, but and this is actually using a Schmidt nib, so that's nice too. But nonetheless, this is going to also be about $80 and is going to also put a fountain pen in your pocket, although with a little bit less nib variety and whatnot. And honestly, if you're after just a pocket pen, there are much cheaper choices too. You can get this guy a Fisher Space Pen, and you know what? It's going to be way cheaper. You're going to probably dislike writing with it for a long period of time, but it's going to be way cheaper. So this is not the cheapest pocket pen, and it's certainly not the cheapest fountain pen, generally speaking. I mean, you can get all kinds of really nice fountain pens. This is the TWSBI Eco. You can get lots of great fountain pens for an equivalently, for a much lower price than that is. So this is not, going to be your function-forward, budget option for any kind of pen action. Instead, this is a piece of beautiful industrial design. It is produced by somebody who is clearly, and I say this with all the love, a little bit retentive about the nature and the details of their products here. This is something that is inch for inch one of the most intricate pieces of machining art I've kind of dealt with on my channel here. I mean, very often I've got, fancy machining and whatnot, but this is very, very impressive at the size there. And so I am really impressed by this guy, and so my review ends up very weird, right? Because you don't need this pen. I absolutely not. Any more than you need to be, if you've already got a Casio on your wrist, you don't need an Omega, in the same way that if you've already got a good pen in your pocket, you don't need this guy. This is a pen that you're not buying for function. This is a pen that you take a look at it, and you're like, whoa. That's cool. It's a pen that you take out and you write with it, and you're like, oh, that works really well. This is not something you buy because you want to carry a pen. This is something you buy because you want impressive machining, because you want to be blown away by some really precise work, and because you want something that's really not just write with, you can write with a Space Pen or a G2 or something like that, but oh boy, is this thing nice. This is a luxury item through and through. But it is a fantastic luxury item. It is beautifully finished with great writing, excellent. I keep saying these things, and a design that I think is just really impressive. And so if you are looking for a pen, there are lots of pens out there. But if you are looking for art that also happens to be a really impressive pen, and you're willing to pay the price to get that from an actual artist, then oh boy, this little guy right here is sehr schön. Get it? Because Schon means beautiful in German. Sehr means very. Yeah, Zaya just killed a joke. Anyways, hope this has been interesting to you. And really well done, Schon. This is absolutely 100% a gem, a pricey gem, but oh yes, well done. So have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day, and I hope you found this review fascinating. Okay, bye now.